Am I the asshole? Story 1. I, 37M, live with my wife, 37F, and son and daughter, 9 and 11 respectively. Recently, there has been this kid who comes by our house after playing soccer and either rides his bike or walks over the lawn with his cleats on his way home. It started out as me giving him stern looks whenever I saw him, then it slowly progressed to me asking him to just go around. The last time I asked him to stop, he made a point to stomp extra hard and twist his feet into the grass to piss me off. Since then I've just been hosing him. The first time I sprayed him with the hose he ran off, but then for some reason he just started standing there while I hose him like he enjoys it. It's now progressed to me sitting on my lawn chair pointing my hose at him, and him just staring at me while he does so. Sometimes we even make small talk. MNGL, it started off as a really bitter relationship, but I've actually gotten to know the kid quite well. We talk for maybe 15-20 mins every day, and he doesn't seem to mind being hosed down after sweating hard playing soccer. He comes by daily and we just shoot the shit while I hose him and he stands there for a bit. Wife told me I need to stop. Even after I explained it to her, she said I'm making us look like childish idiots. I guess I could stop, but honestly it's really funny waiting for him to come by and I see no harm in it. Wibter. Story 2. My girlfriend and I, both 26F, have a son who is just over a year old. And there was some major drama during the birth. For some context, I have chronic heart problems and have been struggling with it since birth. I had a surgery when I was an infant, another at 7 and another at 15. I haven't needed one since and have been doing well all around. When my girlfriend was 6 months pregnant, I got really ill and it took a massive toll on my lungs and heart. I pulled through but spent about a month in the hospital. I felt so awful that I couldn't be with my girlfriend, Jane, but she was super great with it. Then, 2 days before the due date, I was rushed into the hospital due to a buildup of fluid around my heart. I had to get the fluid removed ASAP. When the fluid was all out, my Bill came to visit me and he told me Jane had given birth. I was both ecstatic and devastated. I had to spend the night under supervision, but as soon as I was allowed to leave, I went to the maternity wing to see my girlfriend and baby. At the time, all negative emotions were smothered by our bundle of joy, but over the months, Jane has been showing more and more signs of resentment towards me. It came to a head last night during our date night. I had the whole day planned. Baby had gone to grandma's, her favorite takeout, got all her favorite movies ready to play, spa evening planned, etc. But she wasn't feeling any of it. I asked her what was wrong and she said she's angry at me for missing the birth. I'll admit, I didn't handle it as best as I wanted to, but we argued for a bit and I ended up calling her selfish for saying that. I asked her if she understood the severity of the situation and that I was very ill. She got up and said she wasn't going to let me patronize her and that she's never been disrespected like that before and that she's going to bed. AITA. Story 3. I definitely have a bit of a complex about this kind of stuff because of how I grew up. Always with my siblings getting what they asked for while I almost never did, and generally feeling like I never get my turn at things. So it will be helpful to know if I'm justified or overreacting. My BF and I have been dating for 10 months and it was my birthday yesterday. I put a lot of effort into birthdays, including his, and was pretty excited about it for the last month or so. There is a local bakery that makes a really good looking pineapple upside down cake. I have been really wanting to try it and have been saving it for my birthday. About a month in advance, I told him my birthday was coming up and gave him a few activity ideas, and told him that I didn't need a gift but I really wanted a pineapple upside down cake from XYZ Bakery. He said sure. Now, I know this was probably annoying, but I did mention this specific cake several times, even before last month. Like we would drive by the bakery and I'd say something like, oh hey, that's the place with the pineapple cake. I wanna do that for my birthday. I wasn't deliberately hammering the point home or anything or aware that it was gonna end in a cake-centered conflict, but there were a couple occasions where it came up. And then a week before my birthday I did text him a reminder about the cake so that he would have the bakery info on hand. Yesterday rolls around and my boyfriend comes over to my apartment and gives me a gift, which is a Kindle. Not a bad gift and I know they are expensive, but not something particularly relevant to me either. Then he says let's have cake, and presents what you all know by now is not the pineapple upside down cake, but just a regular grocery store cake with the frosting balloons. Vanilla cake with vanilla buttercream. You guys, I was legitimately sad. If I knew he was gonna drop the ball on this, I would have just gotten myself a pineapple cake months ago instead of waiting. I was on the verge of tears because of not getting the one thing I actually wanted, which was that stupid cake. So I told him I was very disappointed and that he should just go home. He had 2 tickets to a comedy show for that night and one ended up going to waste. Now he's annoyed because it is of course just a cake and wants me to reimburse the cost of the wasted ticket. It was only about $30, but I'm bristling at the principle of it and said I didn't owe him the money. He sent me a Venmo request for $30. AITA if I don't pay. Story 4. My ex-husband and I split 10 years ago. We have a 16-year-old daughter, Brooke. She's mixed race. I'm black. My ex is white. Because of this, Brooke has always had trouble with styling her hair, so she kept it fairly short. A couple years ago I heard about the curly girl method, and since using some of those principles, Brooke was able to get her hair to be styled properly and make it look good, so she's grown it out since then. I don't feel comfortable posting pictures of her on an anonymous site like this, but for an idea of how it looks style and lengthwise, here is a reference picture I found on Google that has very similar hair to Brooke. She puts a lot of work in to get this end result, and while it does require a lot of product and time, I am okay with that. My ex, however, doesn't want to spend the money on hair care products, so when she is at his house, she just doesn't use them. That was fine, because he only has her on alternating weekends, but I recently went on a vacation with some friends and she stayed with him for 2 weeks. Nearing the end of the 2 weeks, he texted me and asked for permission to cut her hair short. I was confused, because she never indicated wanting to do that, so I asked him why. He said that her hair looked awful and she was refusing to take care of it, wash it, or use any products in it. That also struck me as very odd, so I asked what products he meant and he sent me a picture of some cheap crappy Walmart shampoo and hair gel. He said he made her brush it, but it just looked even worse. I told him that he was an idiot. The cheap Walmart hair crap just fries her hair. Hair gel doesn't work with her hair, and of course it looked bad when she brushed it. That's what happens when you brush curly hair. I gave him a list of the products she uses and told him to go to buy them so she can take care of her hair, but he refused, saying they were way too expensive and that he wanted to have her hair cut short because clearly that's the only length she can handle. He made a Facebook post about how I was enabling my daughter to look like a bum and not letting him fix the problem. A lot of his family and some of my family that still keep in touch with him told me that I needed to accept that she is his daughter too and he gets a say in things. I'm sticking by my choice and I'm not going to let him cut Brooke's hair off unless she tells me that's what she wants to do. AITA. Editing to add, it seems I didn't do a great job of explaining that Brooke doesn't want to cut her hair, and I'm defending her, not saying she has to keep it. If she wanted to cut it, she could, but it's my ex who wants to. Story 5. I have a coworker who comes to me for assistance. That's fine. However, when I'm on Do Not Disturb in Teams, he will send me multiple emails or call me on my phone. It's never anything important, just minor stuff that could wait until my meetings are over. I've talked to him 3 or 4 times, telling him that he needs to either wait, or if he must email me it has to stop at 1 and I'll reply to him when I can. He's sent emails every few minutes asking for an answer. If I decline his call, he'll call right back. He's been talked to by management about this. Last week, I sent him a terse email when he emailed me several times during an important meeting. Stop. I've told you I'll get back to you when I can. If I'm on Do Not Disturb, that doesn't mean unless your name is Joe. This is the last time I'll be polite. Finally, he emailed me again on Monday. Multiple times. So, I replied with something along the lines of, do you know how to flipping read? Have you listened to a goddamn thing I've said? Do not disturb means leave me the flip alone. We've had polite conversations about this, but I'm going to be more blunt. Flip off. You're actively hindering my work. Note, he's not trying to bait me. He just thinks that he should be able to get an answer right away from a person. He and a few coworkers claim I was an asshole and out of line for swearing at him and being demeaning. AITA. Story 6. IDK how to start posts like this, so I'll just get into it. I, F17, am in a class with my friend Hannah, also F17. Hannah is a lesbian, zero interest or attraction to men at all. The other day, Hannah was homesick, and the guy who sits next to me, Mason M16, approached me about Hannah. We'd talked a little before, and we're kinda friends. He asked a bunch of weird questions, nothing sexual, just questions about her hobbies and interests. Does she play sports? Is she in any clubs? Stuff like that. I gave vague but honest answers. Then he asked if she was single, and that's when I caught on. I had a moment of mini panic. Hannah doesn't really try to hide her sexuality, but she isn't super open about it either. I didn't want to out her, but I didn't want her to have to deal with this rando. I ended up just telling him that he's definitely not her type. The bell rang, so we both went to our next classes, and I hoped to God that he took the hint. Spoiler alert, he didn't. Today, while students were still milling around before class, he got down in one knee and asked her to go out to the movies this Saturday. The whole class was silent for a moment before she said no, sorry. I'm not interested. Mason, but why? I'm a great guy, I swear. It'll be a good time, I promise. Hannah, Mason, you know I'm a lesbian, right? The whole class bursts out in laughter and Mason sulks back to his seat. He started crying and sat down. That's when class started. After class, Mason came up to me and told me that I'm an A for not warning him that she was a lesbian. That if he'd known, he wouldn't have asked her out. Another kid, Mason's close friend I think, came up to us to back Mason up. At first I was sure that I was in the right, but now I'm not so sure. AITA. Story 7. So for some info, I 24M live at home with my parents working full time as a chef. My brother is 21 and got a girl pregnant at 16, and his girlfriend and my nephew both live in the same roof. When I was younger I was jealous that my brother started dating before me, but not anymore now lol. So anyways, I'm part of a writing group, and I asked out a girl I've known for a while and she said yes, she's a nurse, so we both work weird hours. The only time we were both free is on Monday, so we're getting breakfast together, then we're going to the movies. Now usually I look after my nephew then because I work the dinner shift, but I told my brother that I couldn't because I'm going on my first ever date. He said no worries and wished me luck, but his GF started freaking out at me. She said that they couldn't afford a babysitter then and mum and dad are both working. I shrugged and said that it's not my kid, to which my brother agreed. She said I was being an inconsiderate asshole. Was I wrong here? Story 8. Myself 29F, and my ex of 11 years 34M, separated mostly amicably last year. We have a son, 9. I started seeing my BF, 36M, early this year. Sitch. Recently my ex was very intoxicated and called me at about 4:30 a.m. This is the time he typically went to work, so I thought maybe something was wrong with his car, etc. He was very intoxicated and in a bad place mentally, so I lent my ear. He ended up deciding he wanted to see me and it was a great idea to drive the 3 minutes drive to my house. Despite my absolute refusal and pleads, he drove drunk to my house. Knowing my ex, I let him in quietly. He crawled into my bed and he passed out within 10 minutes after some blubbering. I did not lay with him. I sat on the couch. My son was sleeping. I live in a very small 2-bedroom suite. We both had school and work in the morning. I was furious about the whole situation but was trying to do the best for my kid above everything, i.e. not have them see a drunken scene with their dad. I left for work and he eventually woke up and left. I told my BF as soon as I saw him after work that day. He was very upset that I let him in the house and this ultimately led to us, me and new BF, breaking up. He thinks I should have called him a cab, which I honestly didn't think about, and yes, would have been a good option, although my ex likely would have refused, or just refused him entry. He thinks I disrespected him and I'm the asshole. Background: my ex and I really wanted to remain supportive of each other and have a friendship, and my BF knew and was accepting of that initially. There were other boundary issues with my ex since the breakup that I was always upfront and honest with my BF about that contributed to this being a big deal. I just need to know if I'm in the wrong here. AITA? Story 9. My dad had me when he was in his early 20s and my stepmom, L, 34F, is closer in age with me, 25F. Both L and I are pregnant at the same time. She is currently 34 weeks while I am 32 weeks. We are both having girls. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to name my firstborn girl, Elizabeth, after my gran who raised me while dad was in medical school. My partner likes the name Elizabeth and we've decided that she will be called Elizabeth Catherine after both our grandmothers. We've also decided to keep the name a surprise. However, Elle and Dad have recently announced the name for their daughter on social media using an embroidered blanket. She is to be named Elizabeth Gabrielle, but Lizzie for short. Elizabeth after Elle's best friend, Beth, who passed away last year, and Gabrielle after her mum who passed away 4 years ago. Elle and I had talked baby names and she had never mentioned using Elizabeth. If I'm being honest, I'm upset by it. I picked the name first. It holds a lot of meaning to me. I messaged Elle telling her and Dad to pick something else, anything else, because I was also using Elizabeth and it will be confusing to have two Elizabeths, especially given how close in and they'll be. Elle told me that she wasn't going to move on this, that she wanted to honor Beth by naming her daughter after her. When I spoke to Dad, he told me that they were naming her Elizabeth whether I liked it or not. He told me that I was being selfish, thinking I could decide who could use which names, and for thinking that my reasoning for using the name Elizabeth was more important than Elle's. Dad also told me that as their daughter is likely to be born first, then they'll name her Elizabeth and I'll have to pick something else. Elle has since told me I'm being an ass and has asked me not to contact her until I apologize. AITA for telling my stepmom she can't use the baby name I chose. Edit. By keeping it private, I mean we haven't announced she'll be called Elizabeth Catherine. However, my dad knew I wanted to use Elizabeth as we talked about it quite a bit after Gran passed. Story 10. Last one. My 40F last remaining parent passed away 6 months ago. I have a NT twin sister, 40F, and a high needs nonverbal ND sister, autism and Down syndrome, 35F. She lives in a group home. Our parents years ago asked us to be legal guardian. She would still live in group home so we wouldn't have to do physical care, but would be responsible for her affairs, meetings, and decision making, to our disabled sister. I refused, but twin agreed to it. Our parents tried to play it off like it would be super easy and no big deal. BC she was in the group home. I knew better. BC I saw how much work it was for my parents even when she was in the group home. But sister believed every bit of BS our parents spewed about it being easy. I tried to tell her that it's not the case, not to discourage her, just so she'd go in with her eyes wide open. She scoffed and said I was exaggerating. We never got along that well. Well, now she's demanding that I become co-guardian. BC it's too overwhelming for her. She believes I have all the time and money in the world because I'm child free and she's a single mum to 3 kids, 8F 5 meters 2M. And for those reasons I should not only be co-guardian but take the majority of the load. While me and my hubs live comfortably, we are not exactly the Vanderbilts. I told her that I don't want to be a dick and say I told you so, but that I warned her this would happen, and this is exactly why I didn't want to take it on. I told her I wouldn't judge her if she signed over guardianship to the state, as it's a lot for anyone to handle. She got very angry with me, that I'm selfish and it's not what our parents wanted. I told her she made and is continuing her choices and I made mine. I do not dictate how she lives her life and she has no right to tell me how to live mine. AITA? Edit. As per many commenters' suggestions, I am including that I have CPTSD from growing up with her and being around her is insanely triggering to me. My twin knows this and she, along with my parents while they were alive, just poo-pooed the PTSD and said that I need to suck it up and do it anyway. Also, my twin got a larger inheritance for taking on the job, No objections from me on this.